I am being tortured for information, as they keep asking me for the password to the document. I told them I don't know the password, and they kept on trying to torture me, but I kept on saying, I don't know the password. So now they will be bringing out the big guns. I remember thinking about what else they will be bringing out to torture me. I heard one guy said, bring out the good-looking people, and I was so confused. I just wanted to go home, and how this day had turned so upside down, it's unreal. I kept shouting out so loud, I don't know the password. Then they brought in the first good-looking hot person, and the room got so hot. Not the comfortable holiday heat, but the humid, locked-in-the-office heat. I was okay, and I could still function normally. They asked me what the password to the document was, and I replied, I don't know the password. The hot person got closer to me, and the room got hotter, but I kept my cool. I was doing pretty okay with this torture thing, and why these guys were desperate for this document was unknown to me. Then they brought in another good-looking hot person, and the room got so hot that I was uncomfortable now. It was so hot that breathing the humid air was uncomfortable. I kept saying that I didn't know the password, but they weren't having it. These guys need to know when to stop. It was so hot that I was losing my mental functions, and it was the kind of heat that one couldn't work in. It was like getting deeper into the Earth's core, and I wanted to be somewhere else. I kept saying that I didn't know the password. Then they brought in a third hot person, and this time it started to affect my skin. It was effectively cooking me. My skin was hurting, and my sweat was evaporating everywhere. I could see a few boils forming. It was painful. I shouted out loud, I don't know the password! And the pain of being boiled alive in a room with good-looking hot people was excruciating. In these moments of pain, you start to think about God and the reason for existence. I was trying to think about something else. Torturers. We tortured him so much, and when we brought in a fourth good-looking hot person, he was evaporated. We were protected in another room. Then we realized he had told us the password. The password was, I don't know the password. I used to have a real addiction to watching content on streaming platforms. This was because it was semester break, and most of my friends from university had traveled overseas for their break. I could not afford that luxury of seeing the world, so instead, I would browse trending streams from the comfort of my small apartment. One night, however, I came across an unusual stream. The title read, Streaming for 10 Days Without Sleeping. Curious about how someone could physically do this, I started watching. The streamer, who had short brown hair with dark eyes, sat at his desk in what appeared to be his bedroom. He must have had a bad web camera, as his footage was grainy. A slow hum could be heard in the background. The broadcast started a day ago, so the streamer was still quite engaged with the online chat. Hello everyone. For those who are just joining, as you can see from the title, I am trying to stay awake for 10 days straight. Checking the viewer count, I saw there were only about 50 people watching the stream. I stuck around for a few minutes, then decided to watch something else. Later, I messaged my friend Rebecca about the stream. We both studied the same degree, psychology, and had just finished our first year. She, however, was back home with her family in the States. We talked about how it must be impossible to stay awake for 10 days straight. 2 days later, I had completely forgotten about the stream. It was only when I was on the Explore page again that I saw his stream. Again, I was curious, so I started watching. It was very different this time. Standing up with his head down, the streamer was getting gently pushed back and forth between two other people. I assumed this was to keep him from falling asleep. His body was limp and lifeless, like a puppet that was no longer being held up. They were whispering something as if they didn't want the audience to hear what was being said. The usual hum was in the background, but this time, there was a click, 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 then a pause, then the clicking would start again. Between the clicks, and the streamer's body, motionless body, being gently pushed back and forward. I decided to stop watching. Something didn't feel right. 3 more days passed, and again, I found myself lying on my bed, looking for something to watch. I found the same stream. This time, however, it was titled, "Help Me. I've streamed for 7 days straight." I clicked on the stream without thinking. This time, the streamer stood by himself, head bent forward, looking to the ground. He swayed slowly. There was no clicking, but I could hear the blowing of wind. Before I could leave, I received a message from Rebecca. I replied to what she had said, and I also mentioned how weird the stream was getting. She agreed it was weird, and after a bit of back and forth, she announced she would have to go to bed. I wished her good night. I clicked back to the tab. The tab opened, and there I saw him. The streamer was at his desk again, but this time, he was looking directly into the camera. His face was pale and his eyes were red. 2 bags underlined his eyes. Slowly, the corners of his lips raised into a wide grin. "Hello, Jane. How are you?" he croaked. This made no sense. How could he know? My username didn't have Jane in it. I paused. I didn't know what to do. "Don't you want to chat?" he whispered, still with that unsettling smile. "How do you know who I am?" I wrote in the chat box. His eyes flickered to the left, reading the message, then looked straight ahead. "I think we just share a connection. There's something about you." Was anyone else seeing this? I looked over to the viewer count and only saw the number 1. "I'm going to call the police. Tell me why you know my name." Again, his eyes looked over to the left, then straight. "I think you should come here so I can tell you more. It'll be easier." "I'm never doing that." Suddenly, his eyes twitched. He still smiled. "You don't have a choice." I closed the tab. Horrified of what I had witnessed, it was a while before I could get to sleep that night. My brain was in overdrive. How did he know me? The rain gently landing on my window didn't help my uneasiness. It was a long time before I fell asleep. The next day, I was determined to go to the police and report him, but I needed more evidence. Maybe I could get a recording of him explaining how he got my name. That'll give the police more information to work with. With my laptop in hand, I moved to the dining room in my apartment. Opening the streaming platform, I intentionally searched for his stream for the first time. The title read, "Help Me. I've streamed for 8 days straight." Taking a breath in, I opened the stream. He was at his desk still, looking at his second monitor. He immediately snapped to look straight at the camera, again with that horrible smile. "Hello, Jane." My fingers wouldn't move. It felt like he was looking straight through my soul. Finally, I typed in chat, "How do you know me?" Again, his eyes darted to the left, then looked straight at me. "You know how to find out. Come here." He leaned closer to the monitor. "This is it. Final warning. Tell me what you know, or I go to the police." I pretended to be brave. Suddenly, his smile vanished. "You won't be able to." I had enough. I closed my laptop in an instant, only to reveal the same face looking at me in my dining room. This time, he was smiling again.